All right, what's up, everybody? We are back here again for week number 14 of the Backyard Bookies, the final week of the regular season. Joined with me, as always, my co-host Scott. Scott, tough week for you, buddy. You faded yourself over again. What a best moment in the show history, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. It's either I'm a genius and I'm back, or that's just absolutely horrible, heartbreaking. I had a feeling that might happen. Um, I really did like the three picks that I had last week, like a lot, and I hated to fade myself, but I think it was something that needed to be done to change some kind of momentum to get back, and even just the season count. It's been horrendous. I'm probably like 30% picking this year. It's terrible. It has not been a fun year. But I'm gonna come back this week, give it my best. Obviously, I'm done for the month, so I'll be spinning a certain wheel here in a moment. But I still got picks. I'm still gonna make them. I still come back every week, and we're here. So let's see what's gonna happen with this wheel.
I have to commend you for the commitment, but I'm having a great time. It's been a great, fun season for me. But
I've
yes,
had a great time. My
yeah,
picks just aren't good.
this is true.
So that's all I'm worried about. But I'm here for your entertainment, if anything.
That's all I can ask for. So, like you said, we got a wheel to spin. Let's pull this puppy up. Oh, yeah, there it is in all its beautiful glory. It's time to spin it. Let's see what we got. Oh, yeah, we added eat a raw egg onto the wheel. So, maybe, oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The death shot. Oh, not too bad. How you feeling about that one?
It's gonna suck, but I'll figure out a way to do it tomorrow at Thanksgiving. My dad has an assortment of liquors that we can all mix together. I'll probably do three spins of like three different, two different liquors in a mixer, and see what happens and mix them together. And yeah, I guess that's what's gonna happen. I'm glad it wasn't the wing though. The wing would have been way worse than anything. I could have done the raw egg. That would have been fine, but the wing would have been a big problem. So I'm glad I didn't land on that.
I'm glad you didn't land on that too. I can't wait to see what you come up with. It's good timing. It's a holiday. Excuses to just you might be already blacked out by the time having to deal with family
Yeah.
and such. So it'll be fine. It'll just go down. Maybe come back up a little bit later. But let's get into it. Still all to play for. We still have the season totals. And maybe you need to keep this streak going. If you win all the games this week, you could really be back. You know what? Let's make this a little festive. Maybe we'll just cover up your score and the season score with some leaves over here. Keep it covered. We've got the Thanksgiving holiday. All right, but what's your first game for the last week of the regular season?
Yeah, so as we know, this week's kind of rivalry week. Have the big games. We have the Egg Bowl. We have obviously our game. We got the game as well, Ohio State, Michigan. But I'm going to go with the other game that's pretty big here, South Carolina, Clemson.
Ooh.
Um, for me, both teams are playing really well right now. South Carolina, especially, they've in the last it looks like 5 games, they've just pretty much taken out everybody. They played Missouri was the only one that hasn't covered. Um, and honestly, during the entire year, they've covered the spread. They're 8-3 against the spread the entire year. Clemson not so good against the spread, 5-6. But they're a formidable team. They haven't lost since Louisville back in early November, so November 2nd, which they were pretty good favorites in that one. But otherwise, they've won the last 3: Citadel, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech. Um, might be kind of squarey. I don't know if it is or not. You can be the judge of this, but I'm going to take South Carolina plus 2.5. I like them being the dog in this one. They are on the road, obviously. And I think I've talked about, rivalry games. I usually do take the points. They're usually closer than the spread says. It just kind of depends. I don't know. I have an honorable mention later. I think Ohio State, Michigan later. I don't think Michigan's going to cover that game. That's one of them that I wouldn't. I wouldn't take on the dog with the points, but otherwise, I'm pretty. I like picking the points with the rivalry game. So for me this week, South Carolina gets the points plus 2.5. They've played really well, like we said. Defense has been great. Defensive line's been great, and their quarterback's coming alive a little bit. So we're going to take them plus the points.
They are hot at the right time. This could be a square pick. This also could be a playoff potential game. South Carolina wins. They probably have a good statement to be in the playoff. Put a pin in this one. Put a pin in this game. Maybe I got more to say about this a little bit later. For my first game, let's go over to the Big 12. Maybe the hottest team in the country, certainly against ranked opponents. The Kansas Jayhawks, 3 straight wins against ranked opponents as a team below 500. That's never happened before. They're heading over to Waco, taking on the Baylor Bears, who honestly, really good season for Baylor. That not a lot of expectations. I think they're 7-4 on the year. And everybody except maybe Kansas is alive in the Big 12. I think there's 9 teams eligible for the Big 12 championship. But I'm going to keep riding the hot hand here. I got the Jayhawks going into Waco. It's only a point and a half. Don't necessarily love giving a point on the road, but it's not really a rivalry game. Big 12 has destroyed all rivalries essentially. So we don't have that extra stuff going for it. I just think Kansas is playing an elite tier of football. They are pounding the rock on people. They're making it really difficult for teams to have any sort of sustained possession, keeping their defense fresh, and they are getting nasty and physical, downright dirty, honestly, against Colorado at certain points. And I just think Baylor had a great season. They've been a really good team against the spread. Everyone's on Kansas, but I think Kansas is just going to keep this momentum riding, especially if they win this game. They get to 6-6. They will be bowl eligible at 6 wins, and they're going to put this Kansas team in just because they're playing so well. So give me the Jayhawks in a must-win spot, laying a point and a half on the road.
Yeah, this was one of my honorable mentions as well, but I had the other way. I had Baylor plus 1.5 in this one. I think Kansas is too obvious of a pick, but very well could happen. They've done really well the last maybe 3 weeks. They've covered.
They've covered the last 5.
They've covered the last 5. But just the last 3 weeks, they've covered in pretty big fashion. But you look at Baylor too;
They've
great
covered the
against
last
the
5
spread
as
as
well.
well.
They're 5-0, 5-0.
They're 8-3 against the spread, so really good spread teams. You know, Baylor at home maybe gives them a little bit of an advantage, but I think this obviously 1.5 points. It's a toss up, so Kansas could easily come in and get it done. But yeah, just being at home, I think Kansas is just the obvious pick here. But the obvious pick is sometimes the right pick. We've seen that before.
we've we've
Obvious
dodged a
as a
couple of
92%
rats.
is on Kansas. Yeah,
Yeah.
92% is on Kansas, which is wild. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I was gonna take the other way, but that's not one of the picks I have this week.
Well, to be fair, the line
Uh,
opened at 3, I think, for Kansas, so that could be a good chunk of the money as well. Like people hammering Kansas getting points
right.
early in this as they're watching that Colorado game. But okay, yeah, what's your second pick for us?
Going back to our roots here, Iowa. Not an under team this year. They're playing Nebraska. 39.5 is the total. Iowa is a 3.5 point favorite. Um, I kind of like Iowa to win this game, but I also am looking at how many points have been putting up lately. Nebraska just put up 44 against Wisconsin, who's typically a defensive team. Even a 20 against the two LA teams, USC, UCLA. Not as good against the top tier Big Ten teams with Ohio State, Indiana, but yeah, same with Iowa. They're putting up at least up to 20 points a game, especially except for last 2 weeks ago against UCLA, putting up 17. But otherwise, they're putting up points. I like the number here, 39.5. So I'm taking the over. Um, Raiola has been great at the end of the year. I think he's close to almost even on touchdown interception percentage. Isn't great, not percentage, ratio, which isn't great. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like they'll at least put up 20, 23, and then Iowa can put up some as well. Like we said, normally Iowa's an under team. They're 9-2 with the over this year, which is wild. The two unders have been USC, which they almost got to. It was 40. It was 51. It was 48. They got, and then they don't do well against the top Big Ten teams. Ohio State. They 17-21 was 21-17 was the score in that one. So didn't do well. So kind of the mid-tier teams, they put up points. So with the total being under 40, I feel like it's going to be a decent cover. Hopefully it covers quick. But yeah, I'm taking the over, 39.5, Nebraska, Iowa.
Yeah, that's a good zag, I guess, from what we've normally seen. Iowa over team. It's really that simple. They score points. And Nebraska, a little bit better. I mean, especially with Dana in as the offensive coordinator. I like this one a lot. I think Big Ten games, it's not like we're used to anymore. The only thing I'd be concerned is who God knows what's the weather going to look like. Maybe it's 2 degrees and a snowstorm, which would hurt, but 39 and a half is so ridiculously low. Feels like you should
It
be.
is going to be cold,
Yeah,
so that might be a
it's
problem. 21 degrees.
that's not too
It's
bad.
going to be clear though, so
Yeah,
it's going to
it's
be
not too
clear. I
bad.
mean, it's not
Yeah, we're
like
fine. It's the
it's not
Midwest.
sub-zero. Yeah, it's they. I hope they can figure it out. If they, Nebraska and Iowa, they can figure out how to play in 21 just with a little bit of wind. Throw the ball
Patrick,
around.
this is why he's Patrick Mahomes. He got a little thick extra coverage for that one. I'm going with the
Keep them
classic.
warm.
I'm going with a classic ACC matchup for my next game. Cal going to SMU for an ACC conference game right now. The classic matchup we all know and love. SMU, everything to play for right now. Currently sitting in the playoff. They have to win this game to assure this. I don't think the ACC is going to be a two-berth league, so they got to win this week. They got to win next week against Miami, I think it's going to be. But yeah, Cal, sneaky decent team this year, 6-5. They've been a viable squad. Get a win against Stanford last week. Lost to Syracuse, but beat Wake Forest, blew out Oregon State, who just won the Pac-12. Congratulations to them. But SMU, the Ponies, have been rocking and rolling. Only one loss early in the season to BYU, who BYU is a good football team. And they switched quarterbacks. Since they went away from Stone at quarterback, they are undefeated this year. It's been a massive, massive upgrade. I mean, Jennings has been unbelievable, I think, for them. And this offense is just so good. And I love the number here. They're at home. It's only 13.5. I'm going to take the Pony Express here under 2 touchdowns to take care of business. I think they blow this game out. Cal flying across the country, holiday weekend. They're already bowl eligible. They don't have much to play for. SMU, everything to play for. It's a little bit big of a number, but again, not another real rivalry game. Just kind of a whatever. And SMU, getting ready for next weekend, need to take care of business this to make sure they have a real shot to get into that playoff.
Yeah, this potentially might be why I'm only have 2 right. This is also one of my honorable mentions, but I also have the other way. I like Cal plus 13.5 in this one. It just seemed like too many points for me. Late in the year, it's at SMU, which that does suck. But just going back to the numbers here, 94% on SMU. That's just
Haha.
wild. That's just on one side. So I don't love it. I would take Cal, but that could be why I have leaves over my number. So
I think SMU
yeah,
already had their scare. They had their scare against Boston College. Everybody's got a scare in them. I think they already had their scare against BC.
yeah.
All right.
I don't know. If it was 14.5, I'd definitely feel a lot better. But
Yeah. It's a good number right there, 13.5. Under that 2 touchdowns. What is your final game for us before the upsets?
yeah. So another rivalry. Notre Dame USC. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a rivalry. They play every single year, so I'd call it a rivalry.
It's a rivalry.
Um,
It's a rivalry.
yeah, yeah. They're playing at the Coliseum. USC. I think I don't know if I picked them last week or not, or just picked the game. I don't know if I did or
Yeah,
not. We talked about them at
the
least.
UCLA
Um,
USC game. You definitely had that game.
yeah, we've talked about. I don't need to go over the whole Lincoln Riley. He's terrible. He's probably going to be kicked out. Definitely, if he loses this game, he might be gone. 6-6 is not acceptable in Pasadena. So not good. Not a good look for him. They did win last week against UCLA, but Notre Dame is rolling right now. We talked about it last week. My game that I flip flopped on because I felt like Notre Dame. When I said Notre Dame kicked the hell out of Navy, they were going to do it again against Army, but I had to flip flop and take Army. Terrible idea. They did exactly what we said they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame's a great football team. I think they're going to probably end up covering this game 7.5 against USC. I said rivalry game, so normally I'd take the points and run, but in this one I'm just not very confident in USC now. Not winning against great teams, UCLA, Nebraska, Rutgers, and then at Washington, at Maryland. That's just the last 5, but we're looking at action, so it's on there. But yeah, they're just not winning against the good teams. I think they're just going to get blown out. Just looking at anything about last year, their defense is terrible. It's improved a little bit, but the offensive production is not there anymore. So I'm gonna take I'm taking Notre Dame minus 7.5.
All right, Scott, same game for me. 7.5. Not a great number. Battle for the Jeweled Shillelagh. But they're sticking an emerald in that shillelagh. I am also on the Irish here to cover that 7.5 for my final game. Yeah, Notre Dame is a really good football team. It's almost inexplainable how they lost that game to Northern Illinois week 2. Maybe A&M, that grind just took so much out of them and was such a emotional win that they let down. But since then, they have housed everybody. This isn't like the normal Notre Dame where they like skate by some teams. They've been blowing everybody out. And they've been doing on the offensive side of the ball. Pair that with a great defense. I mean, 31, 51, 52, 35, 49, their last 5. They've covered their last 5, at least against the spread. And they've been big numbers, all at least 14. USC's not that good. Not a great defense. They did come back and beat UCLA last week. That was kind of a big win for them emotionally. Notre Dame's going to be ecstatic to get out of South Bend and head to USC, LA. Some nice weather on top of it. Should have a good crowd there. And they're going to lock up this playoff spot. I'm with you 100%. Notre Dame can run the football. They're going to play great defense, control the clock. And Riley Leonard does just enough to win. And I think Notre Dame's definitely a live team this year for the playoff. Just throw that Northern Illinois game out because everybody's got a bad game except for really, even Oregon does, but they beat Wisconsin. So yeah, I'm on the Irish. I think they have a great setup, a great path to the national championship as well, probably as the 5 seed. Maybe they're the 6 seed. It depends where Ohio State falls when they lose to Oregon again. But yeah, loving the Irish this week, minus 7.5 as well. What are your honorable mentions, Scott?
Yeah, just to kind of
Wrap
pile up
up.
on that, they're 9-2 against the spread. One of them being the Northern Illinois game, which was a joke, and then with like you said, could have been an emotional thing. Um, and then Miami, Ohio, they didn't cover, but they won 28-3. It was a 27.5 point. It's basically they covered.
Yeah, that's pretty
It,
dominant.
it,
Yeah.
we'll see where Miami, Ohio scored their 3. They scored their 3 in the second quarter, probably at the very end of the second quarter, something like that. So kind of just a bad way if you bet that game. But yeah, so honorable mentions. Let's see what we got here. I have Army and UTSA over 54.5. Both are scoring a lot of points. Well, Army didn't last week, but that's because they played a good team. But they can score. Like I said, Baylor plus 1.5 against Kansas. Baylor's 8-3 against the spread. So just feeling that Kansas obviously is a hot team. So don't want to dog them too much. They're playing well. Back to that rivalry thing. Auburn plus 11.5 against Alabama. Alabama's kind of squandering a little bit. Terrible loss last week against Oklahoma. And then really their last couple games haven't looked great. Jade Milrow's not that good. I think Auburn can, bring that momentum from last week in 4 overtimes against our team and at least cover that game. And then, like I said, Ohio State minus 20.5 against Michigan. Ohio State's a horse. They're playing at the shoe as well. So Michigan just not great on offense. I think Ohio State will take care of it pretty easily. Like I said, Cal plus 13.5 at SMU. Don't need to go too much into that when we talked about that. And then LSU minus 6 against Oklahoma. This is Oklahoma's first time in the shoe in the conference. At night, not the shoot, so Death Valley at night could be a spooky game for them. Like you said, a lot of emotion last week against Alabama, beating them pretty good. So minus 6 is a kind of scary number. I feel like it might be closer than that because LSU hasn't been playing well, but I think Death Valley gives you definitely a big advantage, at least a touch. I feel like even a touchdown advantage at night. Thanksgiving weekend. So I like LSU minus 6.
Yeah, I like that. I have Auburn plus 11.5 as well. Oklahoma not ready for the that kind of environment, I don't think. But Brian Kelly probably might get fired if they lose that game. So that's a good one too to have. I like Mac Brown in his final hurrah, win one for the Gipper, minus 3.5 against NC State, North Carolina. He will not be coaching them next year. I am also on where is it? What is it? Damn it. I didn't write these down. I'm a bad boy. Fill airtime. Oh, Syracuse plus 10.5 against Miami at home. I think Miami just, they're kind of just there. They're kind of just there. They lost that game, hanging around, good offense. Syracuse kind of spicy. I like them a good bit. And yeah, that's all I got for my honorable mentions. What is your final upset of the regular season?
Well, you just mentioned one of them.
All
You just
right.
mentioned the NC State UNC game. I actually like NC State in this game. The spread isn't that high. Like you said, Mac Brown's last game. That's probably a big. It's that's a big factor in this game. I feel like that might be going to be against me there. But NC State hasn't looked terrible. Bad loss against Georgia Tech last week. They beat Stanford. They beat Cal. Otherwise, UNC hasn't done. I mean, it's really just a in-state game that could be a rivalry game that could end up going the other way. Yeah, but the Mac Brown thing could be a problem for me. But I didn't really find much of those games. That I mean, rivalry week's always crazy, but the spreads were so high on some of them. I didn't feel like I wanted to pick like a -2 or -3, so I went a little more -3.5. But yeah, plus 135 rivalry game. Anything could happen. We'll go with that. It's not the analysis isn't great, but we're gonna take that.
All right. I bet you wish this was a basketball game instead. Much more enjoyable to watch, probably, between these two schools. Yeah, sure. Why not? Roll with it. I'm also taking a in-state road team. We talked about it earlier. Give me the Gamecocks, baby, against Clemson this weekend. South Carolina playing some of the best, maybe the third best football in the SEC, maybe the second. Them in Florida, they just been lights out. Defensive line, NFL guys all over the place. They get after teams. They are insanely hard to tackle, I guess. Like every time I watch them, nobody can tackle them. They got a bunch of big, bulky guys out there. Clemson, nothing super impressive. Escaped. Was it last weekend with Club Dick over there? No, 2 weeks ago against Pitt, they escaped with Club Nick. They took care of the Citadel. Excuse me. Oh man, good for them though. Beat up on more military schools. I'm just not impressed with Clemson. They've covered one of their last four. It is at home. It's in the fake Death Valley. I just think South Carolina is going to be overwhelming them. They get into the playoff with a win. I don't think Clemson's in regardless. I think the two losses and the ACC kind of sucking keeps them out. South Carolina will be an SEC representative with everybody slipping up. I mean, they're in. I mean, the only thing that they could maybe do is they win and A&M wins too. I don't know, but I think South Carolina's in with a win regardless. So give me the Gamecocks. Better team, better defense, making life difficult for them. It's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be an emotional game, but I still got one more in me with the SEC. I'm not going to bail on my conference yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I picked them plus 2.5. They've been looking great last 4 or 5 games. They might, I don't know, they have 3 losses, so they might not get in, but a good 3-loss SEC team
Yeah, who we
should get
putting
in.
in? We got
It's
to
just
put somebody in. We're running out of
teams that
teams.
are going to ruin it for them, like a Boise State or the Big 12 winner that's going to come in and take one of the seeds. That doesn't help their cause a little bit. There's only like 10 spots.
I'm
Well,
so
not even that,
yeah,
but like
yeah. I'm
10-ish
so
spots available for a 13 or 12 ranked
I think
team.
there's 7. There's
That's
7
even above
spots.
them.
There's 7 spots. And if you count
Okay,
Notre
so
Dame, there's 6 spots.
even more, a 15th ranked team. They beat Clemson though. They beat A&M.
Or I mean,
They
yeah,
should they
all you
should
need is
get in
A&M
3
to beat
losses against
Texas.
them, but
A&M beats
right.
Texas. South Carolina's in. Plus, yeah, I'm so we're so in on Penn State with one loss who can beat Minnesota by 1 point. The Big Ten is crap, man.
And in
Big Ten.
Indiana, who hasn't played anybody, and Texas,
Yeah,
who hasn't played anybody,
100.
and Texas
Indiana's
hasn't even. I don't think Texas not even. Texas doesn't have any
ranked wins. No
winning
ranked wins.
record games in the
No,
SEC. So
Indiana has no winning record wins, and they've played 7 of the 8 worst teams in the Big Ten, and Texas has no ranked wins in the
ranked.
SEC. Yeah, they've played nobody. They'll be the first SEC team to ever do that, to not play a single ranked team and beat them. Like, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so then you got a South Carolina who's beating up on pretty good teams. So
And they got hosed.
they should be deservingly in, but we'll see if that ends up being the case. I think the committee has it wrong, but I think we all do.
We don't trust the committee. We don't know.
With just with putting like whoever wins a Big 12 in like ranked 20th, like why do they deserve to be in?
They get a buy. They get a buy, baby.
And then And then a Boise State or somebody, a fourth, the four who's gonna get the bye in the 4 seed. Like that's not the way it should be. So
And
anyway, we're kind of
yeah, we're ranting here, but I like it. A&M's going to get hosed if they beat Texas. They beat Texas, lose to Georgia, they're out. But they'll finish second in the
yeah.
conference and not be in because they played Notre Dame because they scheduled a real team week 1. That's why they're getting punished. But anyway, enough about that. Run over your picks and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, like I said, South Carolina plus 2.5 against Clemson. You got the upset there, so we're rooting on the Cox there. Nebraska, Iowa over 39.5. I may have neglected looking at the weather, so maybe don't bet that one. Notre Dame minus 7.5 at USC. We both have that one, and then NC State plus 135 at UNC.
All right, I got the Jayhawks minus 1.5 at the Baylor Bears. Give me SMU minus 13.5 against Cal to set up a playoff berth. On the Irish, both of us minus 7.5 against the Trojans. And let's go Cox, baby. South Carolina plus 114 against Dabo and the Clemson Tigers. That's going to do it for us this week. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We got daily sports content for you guys. We will be back again next week for conference championship week. We'll be picking probably like all the bowl games, definitely the playoff games. We'll be back for talking about that. And Scott's got a punishment to pay off, so be sure to check in next week and see it. Again, like, subscribe, and share. We'll see y'all tomorrow.